You're going to use the interactive tool now, and this begins to look a little bit more like Fugro. So if I right click up here, I can find the last dataset toolbar, and so it sees the Baltimore tiles. So this is where I can begin to set some of the filters. So if I just want to look at this by class, remember we looked at elevation, so the ground data is the brown, unassigned is the gray, and then we have some overlapping and noise colors here. I could change those. Overlap reserved if I wanted to change the colors of those, so that I could I find those hard to see from the brown. So I can look at this by elevation then, and that's what you've been looking at before, just your different elevation grids with your highest elevation being the red. So these are your tall buildings. And then the first, second, third return. You can begin to look at that, and you also can see here where water did not return any values. So if I wanted to look at just the filters, I can look at only the ground values and then elevation by ground. So then I begin to see all of these pieces, so around the edge of the stadium here, which was not identified as ground. You begin to pick out the road pieces, and sometimes you can even see power lines identified as not ground. So she's going to have you go through some of the different tools with the last data set. Where is the 3D view? I like that one. Yeah. So you're going to be able to pull up the 3D viewer. Maybe it's going to take a while. Or it may not respond at all. I'm not sure. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so there's my 3D view, but it hurt. And I'm in ground, so it's not, oh man. So I had to restart. One thing you might try if you're running into problems like that, you might try zooming in and looking at smaller pieces of data. So if I were to do this, hopefully it's just going to do the data view that I have and not freeze again. If it freezes, I'm going to call this good enough. And you guys can work through it. Here it is, yeah. So, boy, it is. Yeah. So anyway, there's my 3D view. And I should be able to tip this, but it's really not working well for me. I hope it's, yeah, there it is. It's just slow. So Fugro works much faster for this piece. But anyway, you can get, the idea would probably be to zoom into a much smaller piece and look at it that way. So you're going to do, oh, look at that, I'm under the earth. I love that. It's just slow. I just was moving too fast for this. So smaller pieces when you're looking at this, and you're going to go through the process here, and you're going to put in a deliverable 3 that has 3 data frames, looking at the different elevation surface views, and then you're going to make a 4th deliverable, which is a profile slice, and your 5th deliverable will be a short workflow, and how do you get raw last data points ready to look at in ArcGIS. And so that's the process of just getting started with LiDAR. And then the work I've done before is when I have data such as this that's unclassified other than just ground and then everything else, you can select the different layers using your filter. So I could select my ground layers, and I could then keep those as a grid, and then select next my higher layers and work with those separately. So there's some tutorials that help you work through those different pieces of LiDAR. But this is just kind of, as you can tell, a dot in the bucket of working with LiDAR.